Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of this training. In this particular training, we will be learning about how to define printers, how to define spools, how to define the spool servers, and also we will see how to manage spools and output request. We also see how to set up a central printer administration and full detail about spools and printers. As we know, there are various documents which is available in SAP systems in the form of SAP scripts or SAP's smart forms documents, or it can be a normal SAP document, your sales order, whatever it could be. There is quite a lot of documents which are available in SAP systems, and these documents can be different from one to another. It can be a PDF document, or it can be a system generated document, or it can be a SAP script document or smart form document. So you have different kinds of documents you will be processing in our SAP system every day. How these documents is being processed, how these documents are being created, it's a very important thing to understand. Meaning to say, the output request is the conversion of this pull request, whereas it's in a printed format. Okay, and you can have several output requests for one spool request. Okay, you have, let's say we are trying to print an invoice, so you created a spool request. A spool request is created, and after that you want to print this spool request, then you will create an output request. The output request is sent to one printer. So for some reason you couldn't print that one. The output request could not be completed. I mean, could not be printed. The output request is what we can define is it is independent for that specific printer. So you convert this pull request into an output request in the form of what the printer requires. So after some time you decided, okay, I cannot print in this printer for some reason, maybe the toner run out, or the printer is faulty, or whatever the reason, you wanted to print to a different printer. Then you can create a different output request with the different drivers, and you will send it to a different printer. As you know, each printer has its own drivers, so this driver needs to be installed in their local machine or the print server or whatever it may be. So if you want to create, or if you want to create an output for a same invoice in a different printer and a different using a different driver, it's quite easy. So one spool request can have more than one output request. Okay, once the output request is created, that will be directly printed. So you can have, like, if you go to your user parameters, you can say print immediately, or print after selection. You can select this print immediate, then it will automatically start printing. So the spool request is the one which is generated independent from the printer setting, printer driver. Okay, and this pull request is saved something called temsec. The temsec contains the actual document content of the spool request. Okay, temsec means temporary sequential object, that is temsec. For this, you can define the storage location in the SAP system. Where is this particular temsec should be saved? Okay, if you go to our SAP system, go to RZ11, we have a parameter which is related to temsec, that is rspo / store _ location. In this profile parameters, you can see the values of this specific temsec where it is going to be saved. In our case, it says DB. DB means it's in the database. Let's say if you go to the documentation, you can see it here. Short description control where the temsec are stored, the spool data of the R3 system is stored. Database is table name TST03 is where the database table name. This parameter sets the storage location for the temsec object in the spool system. The temsec objects can either be stored in the file system or in the database. So you can also save this in the file system. You can find the additional information of this in the online help in SAP Spool system. So in our case, we are storing in the database. You can also store in the file system. So file system problem will be that you need to really define the file system. You have another parameters, for example, this RSTS file system, which we need to define which file, which route you wanted to transfer it. This is all you need to define. Okay. Let's say if you simply say DB in the lower case, then it will be saved in the database in the table TST03, which will be actually quite easy and you can easy to manage. However, there will be some cases you wanted to save this information in the file system for different reasons. If let's say you have some drawings, some confidential data, let's say some business drawings. Yeah, this is very confidential data for some of the big businesses, and they don't want this particular data or drawing should be printed by every individual. So in that cases, what they do, there is some non-SAP solutions which is available. This particular print information TENSEC will be sent to a local database or the local file where the solutions or the external solution, non-SAP solution, will pick up this data, and it will also put some copyrights information in this particular document and who printed, what was the reason for printing, and all this kind of information. Then it will send to the printer. It's a special programs. In that kind of solutions, if you wanted to save the data into the local drive, then you can do that. Otherwise, it's the best idea to keep in database, because database you can manage it more easier than your operating systems, because it's very easy to manage. This one, what we are talking about is we are talking about the entire system. However, we can also manage this in for each specific device. Let's say you wanted to specify for each device separately, then we can also define it in our SAP systems. So let's say if you want to store it in the local device in the operating system, then we need to define the global directory, says G. Then we need to define which global directory. For default, it will be saved in this global. Or then you can also define it's a local directory or a temp directory where you wanted to save in the specific machine's temporary directory also is possible, but that may not be a good option in this case, because if you lost the print spool, then it's quite difficult to identify where the printer is, where is this output is gone, because some of the outputs can be very sensitive. So either you define it in the database, that will be quite easy to track. Otherwise, if you have a special requirement, then you can put in the database, but always keep it in the global directory. But if you put in the global directory and make sure that this does not occupy your space in the system, because space management in the system also quite important, because if the space run out of the SAP system, then the entire SAP system can come to standstill. So there you have to make sure there is enough storage space. The spool can take easily 300 to 500 MB for a file in a very short span of time. It's very quickly it can occupy the space. That's the reason this is quite important if you are managing it in the operating system. This we face it every time in the SAP basis, whereas the operating system gets full because of this specific reasons. So you have to be very, very careful. If in the database, you can do a reorg quite easily for the TEMSEC. So that's quite easy. However, as I said, we can also define the output for each specific devices. Okay, the transaction code we use to create printer is SPAD. This is very quite famous transaction code, SPAD. You need to remember this transaction code, because you will be using it quite often in our day-to-day operation. So we will come to these options, what all is available in the coming slides or coming exercises. Here, to list down the devices, we have output devices. If you say display here, let's select one device. Okay, we have one device called LPT01. If you select this, if you go to edit, then data storage. If you go to the data storage, you can see the options according to the profile. That means according to the system, according to the SAP where we have defined based on the profile parameter, or it can be in the database, or you can change it to a file system global, or you can change it to file system local. You can specify it for each specific output device. Okay, that also possible, but this is generally not done. We can say in a perfect scenario we don't do that, because many a times you always go by one specific configuration until unless it's really necessary to differ from the global setting. The reason behind that is when really some problem happens, it's quite difficult to go and identify these kind of settings. What we do, yeah, let's say you put one system as a local, or one device as a local or a global, put in operating system entirely, you define the database, and after some time and your database is full and you never go to the printer, because by default you anyway do select a database, so you don't check the printers. You will be checking all other things like logs and other things, whether how this getting full. Okay, so try to make it as system specific as much as possible. Try to make it everything centralized. In this kind of things you have to do it maybe in exceptional cases. Yeah, that's the reason we have these options in SAP. As we seen SAP is quite flexible, so that these options are already available. As we know, in general, when you wanted to install a printer in the normal desktop, either it can be a Windows or Mac machine, you need to have a driver, right? Same like that, it is important that SAP knows the specific printer which you are printing. It should know the printer and the model, as well as the particular driver of this particular printer should be available in SAP, so that the SAP can generate the output for the specific printer. We know that a lot of printers which is PostScripts enabled, and these kind of different high-end printers, we need to define it in the SAP also. Print through the operating system. However, you need to generate the output request for the specific printer. Moreover, we are not only going to print through the operating system, there are different access method. You can define the printers. That's what we will see in the coming slides, and we also see how to configure these printers at the end of our training. So the first one is the local printer. Local printer is whereas the spool work process and the operating system spool runs in the same host. Let's say this is our SAP system. The spool server and the operating system spool, that means your local spool, also runs in the same system. It can be central or local. It runs in the same host, let's say. For example, if it is a Unix system, you will use the command lp or lpr to print something. Same like that, here we will use the SAP spool system to output the request to the local spool, so that it can be printed to the server, printed to the printer which is connected locally, or you may have additional print server which is connected to the system, which is operated by the local spool system, whereas the printer is connected to the print server. Okay, this is local printing, meaning to say you are connecting locally to the spool server where it is hosted, to the same host. That is called local printing. We can specify these kind of things in the access method for each printer. Okay, let's go to the system and see one by one, then you can understand this easy. So as we seen, the transaction code to manage the printer is SPAD. Go to SPAD. Okay, let's take one of the printer we have already. We have only one printer. I will just double click here. You can see here the access method. So here we are talking about L, That means this is used for LP or LPR, that is for the Unix, and for Windows we will be using C, direct operating system call. Okay, this is the two methods used for local printing. Moreover, the local printing is, we can say, one of the fastest or most reliable printing in SAP, because anyway this is been processed locally. And if you see here, you have printer host and printer name. This all is not necessary here because you are going to print locally to the same server. Okay, and now you may have a questions. When we see in our work processes, you can define more than one spool work process. Okay, in our case, in our SM50, if you go /n SM50, in SM50, sorry, /n SM50, you can see we have the spool work process only one. You can have more than one spool work process. The idea behind that is that you can have parallel processing. If let's say your printing is quite high, then you can have parallel processing, meaning to say you can also have local printer as well as remote printers and another different types of printer which you are going to see. If you increase the spools number work process, then you will not have much problem in the printing. You may wonder why we need to have additional printer. Is it going to have that many printing happening in SAP system? Yes, because in your day-to-day activity in a business transaction, you will be printing a lot of invoices and quotations, like this kind of information documents you will be printing. Or let's say if you are working in some engineering customer, or if where you will print big documents, as I said, print drawings, that will take quite a lot of efforts, or it will take quite a lot of resources to print this particular drawings. In that kind of scenarios, you can have additional spool work process to reduce the workload. Okay, so this is right now what we are seeing is local printing. Okay, now let's see what is remote printing. In the remote printing, the spool work process, or the SAP spool server, and the operating system spool are in different hosts. So here what happens is, it is irrelevant for SAP where the system is going to be hosted or where the output is being printed. Is it going to be printed directly to the printer which is connected to the operating system spool server, or is it going to be printed through a print server which is connected to the operating system? It's not relevant to SAP at all. Okay, so in the remote printing, you can separate the spool of your operating system from the SAP spool server. This will be quite good in some scenarios, whereas you separate this one, so the workload of the SAP system is not increased, or the SAP system will serve only the SAP specific works. Okay, that is the idea behind that. So if you have quite a lot of printers, then this will be a better idea to have a remote printing option. So in the remote printing option, the access method which we will be using is access method U. Okay, the access method U is for remote printing, and also we can see the U is used for network printing. That network printing means if you have this high-end printers which is directly connected to your LAN network, that you can also use that printer to print directly from the SAP systems. Meaning to say, you have this high-end printers, for example HP printer, which have a network card within the printer, where you can configure an IP address, and it has its own operating system which provides the spoolers. So you can configure directly in SAP system. This is the remote system you are going to send the spool request, then it will automatically process inside the printer itself. You don't need to have a separate host for this. That also possible. That also called remote printing. Here we will be using the access method U. In the Unix also you will be using the access method U, but in Windows we have two types of printing, SAP script and TCP/IP printers. The SAP script print you can also use S as well as U, meaning to say in specific conditions like access method S is used by S means is a SAP protocol. Okay, in special condition we will use S for SAP scripts which needs to be printed, because in SAP script you can do quite a lot of customizing. In that cases we will use S. Okay, let's go to our system, go to SPID, take our sample printer, go to access method, we have yes, print using SAP protocol, okay, that is yes. Then you have U, print using Berkeley protocol, that is the remote printing. Okay, the next method of printing what we are going to see is front-end printing. The front-end printing is defined as F. Okay, the access method is F, it's front-end printing. Using this method you can create a printer which can print to your own printer which is connected to your PC. Okay, let's say this is, if you see in the diagram, this is our machine where we are logging in using SAP GUI. There we have SAP LPD, that means local printer device. Okay, this is a program which will be running in your own PC. Okay, using this method you create one printer and define the access method F. Then what happens is the output will be sent to your own PC where the SAP LPD will take care of this printer, and it sends to your own PC the local spool system, and it will print to the printer which is connected to the PC, or it will print to the print server which is connected to the PC. Maybe you have a printer which is already defined in the operating system which is connected to a print server. Okay, from the default operating system you have a print server which is, the printer is connected to print server. In that case it will print to the print server. So you can also print to your own printer which is connected to your PC. Okay, that is front-end printing. The front-end printing is very widely used in most of the SAP installation, in the sense like sensitive data you will print it in specific printers. However, some normal data, if you want to just take a printout of it, then we will use the front-end printing. The one more biggest advantage is that you don't need to worry about what driver you are going to use, what kind of device is connected to your SAP system, or what kind of printer is connected to your PC. We don't need to know. SAP does not need to know all these things, because it will directly send the spool request and convert it as an output request to the SAP LPD itself. So your local system will take care of conversion to the particular printer. So in the front-end printer, if you create one front-end printer, it can be used in any operating system with any printer. Okay, that is one main advantage of front-end printer. So generally for normal non-critical documents we don't restrict that we will create a front-end printer, then people can print it in their own printers which is connected to their PCs. That's one of the advantage in front-end printing. In a normal scenario what we will do is we will keep one spool server for each application instance, let's say. In that case what happens is whenever you print any front-end printing, then this will not be redirected to your spool server, separate spool server. Let's say if you have a separate spool server, then you need to redirect to a separate spool server. That will not be the case here. From the same application server itself can handle it. Okay, and there is some parameters we have. The profile parameter rdisp/wp number of spool front and max. This allows you to define the maximum number of spool work process for front-end printing for an SAP instance. Okay, for example, if I go to the SAP system, front-end printing is F. Okay, the remote printing which we have seen is G. Okay, with control technology, and this is F. and let's go to the reset 11. The parameter what we wanted to see is RDISP slash WP underscore NO underscore SPO underscore FRO underscore max. That means maximum spool Okay, there is one catch here. This F is capital, not small, for some reason. So this is now 1. That means only one spool work process can be used for front-end printing. Let's say you have more than one spool work processes. In that cases, all the users are using front-end printing quite often. In that case, all the spool process should not be used for front-end printing at a given point in time. So that you have some critical printing like drawings and engineering drawings which you wanted to process it, so it can be used by, or it can be printed by another work process. Yeah, that's the idea behind that. Okay, let's have a look into our system, how we can create these printers in the system. Okay, as we seen, to create the printer we use the transaction code SPAD. Okay, first let's create a front-end printer, which may be quite easier to understand in the initial stage. The front-end printer will send an output to the desktop where your SAP GUI is installed. Okay, so for example, this is the notebook which we are using, SAP GUI, and we have a printer here. We have a couple of printers here. So we wanted to use one of the printer from the local printer. Okay, we wanted to print from SAP to the local printer. Okay, for our exercise we will use this PDF cute writer so that the output can saved in the PDF format, so that I can demonstrate it easily than the actual printer. Okay, let's start creating the printer. So to create the printer, first you go to SPAD, then you select the output device. Here you say display. So this will display the printers which is available to you in this specific SAP server. Now this is in the list of output in display mode. Okay, now you select the change mode. Now you can see the create button. You say create. Here we need to specify the output device name. Okay, the output device what we will create is T underscore, that means for test printer. Let's say front end for ONT PRN or TPRN test printer front end. Okay, here we can give a device output device name, and we can also give a short name. The short name you can use it in many places to configure it more easier. So the short name what we will give, let's say front end printer FPRN. Okay, or let's say PRN. Here let's say PRN F for front end, printer front end. Now we need to select the device attribute. Here we need to specify what kind of device type we are going to use. Okay, so the device type which we will be using is SAP Windows. That is SAP Windows. That means it will convert to the Windows format, whereas the local printer will convert to the actual printer driver format. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, it's SWin, which is called SWin, SAP Windows, and there is couple of different Windows is available for different versions of SAP. This is one is absolute, so we will use SAP Windows. Authorization group, if you want to specify, you can specify the authorization group. You can specify a model, that's a SAP Windows. These are all free text, yeah, there's nothing, no impact here. So in order to identify, it will be quite useful. The location is in, let's say, front end or local printer to be used by all users. Okay, and here you can see lock printer in SAP systems. Let's say you created a printer, you don't want someone to use this printer for some reason, for temporary purpose or some reason, or the printer is still not configured properly and you don't want anybody to print in this printer, then you can lock this printer. Okay, this will lock the printer from usage. Okay, and once you specified the device attributes, we will go to the access method, which is quite important for us. So for front end printing, so for what we have learned, we need to select the device type G. Okay, front end printing with control technology. And this is quite important. The host printer is that in the remote printer and the local printer we can specify the host. Here we cannot specify the host because you may be printing in different hosts based on the SAP GUI where you are running. So for that, it's very important to specify this value. You need to say underscore 2 underscore then default, DEFAULT, default. Okay, this value is very important. If it is a local printer, if it is a front-end printer, you need to specify the host name $underscore without space. If you see here, this is 2 underscore, yeah, without space, 2 underscore then default. Okay, now you can save this printer. Now we have created the printer. You have attributes, printer attributes. You can specify here. You can define the cover page, monitor using the monitoring archiving, that archiving methodology. You can monitor this. You have different output attributes. Based on that printer, you can specify whether it's a color printer, and at the moment it's a simple front-end printer, so we don't specify anything here. All these attributes should be managed by the front end. Yeah, so in our case, this case, we don't do anything much here. Okay, and we can also specify which tray it's supposed to print, tray 1 or tray 2. You can have two. Let's say in a big printers you have different trays. Okay, normally what happens is your invoice you will print it in the letterhead, or some another delivery documents or some internal document you will print it in a plain paper. So in that case, you have 2 trays. You want to print invoice in one printer, but it should pick up from one tray 1 maybe, and other documents it should print it from the tray 2. So in that cases, you can create 2 output device. One should print from tray 1 and the another output device should print from tray 2. Like this you can also differentiate. Okay, so right now we have created this one. Let's say save. Okay, now it's saved, the data is ready, and here also you can see quite a lot of options. Yeah, you can see the print queue status, and you can also see the if it has an output request or it has a spool request, also we can see. Okay, so I will, okay, let's do it like this. Now we created our printer. It's a local printer. It's a local printer to be used by all user. Okay, this is an SWIN printer. Okay, now let's try to print something to this printer. So when we try to print something to the printer, by default it has to bring that output to the desktop which we are demonstrating now. So to print the output, let's run a program. Okay, let's go to SC38. The program which we seen before is RSParam. Let me execute this one. Okay, I got quite a lot of outputs. Now I want to print. You can see the print icon here. You simply click here. Then it will ask you to select the output device. If you select, you can specify the output device name here. Otherwise you can also select from the list. Okay, you can specify the output device name, full name. Otherwise we can also specify the short name. Okay, let's select the list. This is the one which we have created, T_PRN_FR. Okay, select this. This is the printer which we want to print. Then I will say continue. It says the format set x65_25, that means 65 rows and 255 columns is the format which is set for this specific printer. Okay, for time being let's skip this one. It says spooled request number some 07891 sent to the printer T_PRN_FR. In the same time you can see there is a printer pop-up which is popped up. So the SAP, what it does, it sends the output already to the local printer. Okay, now we need to select which printer we need to print. Okay, let's say I wanted to print to this printer. Okay, that this printer is basically what it does. It will create a PDF file. That's what it does. Instead of printing to the actual printer, I just wanted to create a PDF file and show you how the printer is getting printed. Okay, so let's assume we are printing into the printer. I select the printer and say OK. Okay, now it's should have been got printed. Let's see. Now it's still printing. Now it's asking us to select where we want to save the PDF file. Let's say in the location desktop. Save it. Now we can see this already gone from here. Let me go to the desktop and open this PDF file. You can see this is the output which is coming from this RSParam. Okay, now you can see whenever you select that specific printer, it's sending the output to the local front-end system. Okay, after that how it has been printed to each specific printer is depends upon the depends on the windows. So for example, the device driver what we have selected, or the device output device what we have selected, is yes Windows. Okay, so based on the Windows it will be selected. If you go back to our SAP, go to /nspad, go to display. This is our printer. We had a lot of other options. Okay, we can also select different manufacturer like NEPC, OKI, different printers, even and IBM printers. Quite a lot of printers available here. However, some of the printer manufacturer also will provide you the steps or how to install their devices in our SAP systems. Okay, we can import the TRs, then the device will be available from that specific vendor. Okay. Okay, this is about front-end printing. Now let's see how we can create local printer. Okay, local printer means the output of the local printer will go to the same host of the SAP system. That's what we have seen. Okay, let's see, where is the local printer? This is a local printer. This is the SAP system. It has to go to the same host, the spool system of this specific SAP spool server. That's his local printer. So for this, what we will do is we will first go to our SAP system, go to the OS. Okay, this is our ECC system. Okay, so for the demo purpose, what I did, I already installed a printer driver. This is the printer driver which I installed. That's the same printer. That's a cute PDF writer. Just for demo purpose, I created here. If it is the actual printer, we can print it directly. In fact, here we cannot print it. The purpose here is, let's say if we are able to get the spool in the queue here, that means we are successfully able to send it to the spool. Okay, in this category, that's what we mean to say. Because now it will not create as a PDF file here, because we do not have the right driver for this cute PDF software. Yeah, so we cannot print it here. So at least if we are able to get it in the queue here, that means we are able to send the printer spool output to the specific printer. And one more thing we missed out is that when we printed, it automatically printed the spool to the printer. So there is two options which we have seen it before, that you can select print immediate, otherwise without print immediate. Now in the SAP user which we have logged in, the print immediate should have been enabled. If you go to the transaction code SU3, so here if you see the defaults, you can see the control, spool control. Here also you can specify the output device. That's a default output device you can specify, then it will automatically select this output device whenever you are printing. Okay, you can select the output device. Here you can also see output immediately. That's the reason it send the output immediately. Let's try this. Let's remove this one. That means it should not output immediately. So let's see what happens now. Okay, I saved this one. Now let me go to the same transaction SC38, run the report, execute, and go to print. I will select the printer which we wanted to output. This is a local printer. Say continue. Okay, this is the warning which gives you, or the information. Now you can see here the message spooled request some 07820 is created without immediate output. Now you can also see that pop-up did not come. You did not immediately output, but it's still waiting for you to confirm to send it to the device. Right now only the spooled request is created. Okay, so it's not sent to the printer, so it's not sent to the device. So how we can send it? Either you can go to systems and you can go to own spool request, or you can use the transaction SP02. If you select this, you can see this is the first output we have generated, we printed, and this is the second one, 7820. You have, this is a spool number. If you double click here, if you select this, double click on that, then you can see the spool request which was sent to this particular printer and the status is completed. Okay, this you can see the output request number. This is the first output request number of this specific spool. You can have multiple output requests for one spool. Okay, let's say I wanted to print again. I can select this, I can print it again. Okay, see, you can see the pop-up is coming. This is the old spool which we have created. Okay, now it's printing. Let me save this. Okay, okay, let's go back to our actual scenario which you are trying to simulate. The output immediately was not enabled. Okay, let's go to the spool request again, or you can come by sp/o sp02. Okay, it comes to the same screen again. Now you can see, let's go back. Okay, it comes to this same screen. Now you can see this is already completed, and this is the one which we have created without immediate output. So what you have to do is you have to go here. You can, if you double click here, you can see the status is nothing. You don't have any output request. Output request is not created. In this case, what we need to do, need to go here, select this and say print. Now it will request you to print. Now I select this Qt PDF and say OK. It will start printing now. If I say refresh, it's completed. Okay, it is already created the output request. Okay, the first output request is created. A PDF file, I will save it. Okay, this is with immediate output and without immediate output. And we have one more option there. Let's say these spool requests which we are seeing, it's always saved in your database. So as soon as you printed this request, you assume that you don't need this information anymore. Okay, so if let's say every user is going to print a lot of documents and this information is getting saved in the database, which is again an unnecessary information which you are going to save. In that case, you can also do a deletion after the printing is completed. Okay, that if you go to the SU3 option, you can see the defaults. You can see delete after output. Okay, now let us continue creating the local printer. As I said, we already have the printer installed in the local system of the SAP system. This is the ECC system which our ECC is running. Yeah. So this is the ECC system. So let's start configuring now. Let's go back to our desktop right now, which is in the remote desktop. Let's go back here. Go to the transaction code SPAD. Then again, as usual, let's go to the display. Then go to the change mode and we'll go to create. Okay, now let's create the local printer. Let's say test prn underscore local LO. Okay, so here what we will do is prn L will be our short name. So for here what we will do, we can select one of the PDAs, but actually we do not have the actual PDA driver for the Qt printer, so we don't get the output properly there. But let's see how much we can get. The PDF we have. Let's take some another PDF one. Yeah, maybe this an ISO standard. We can take this one. Okay, standard printer. But you need to go to the access method. Then we change So we will change the access method to the access method C, direct operations system call. So that's what we are supposed to do. Let's have a check. Yep, this is C or L. Let's say C because we are using Windows. Okay, L is for the Unix. If it is for LP or LPR, using Unix uses LP and LPR, so we will use L. Here we will use C. Now we need to specify the if you come back here, now you can see the spool server which is already displayed here. So in this case you need to create the spool in the spool server. Now we can simply select this one. We will come back to this again in later stage, and we can specify the model. So PDF creator, location in ECC server. Okay, now let's go to the access method direct. Now you can see the host name is automatically updated. Now we need to specify the printer. Let's say the printer name PDF_PRN, that is our printer name. So let's go back here, PDF underscore PRN, PDF underscore PRN, sorry, PFC underscore PRN, PFC underscore PRN. Okay, that is the printer name, PFC underscore PRN. Now let's say save this. Okay, now the output device is saved. Now let's go back and run the report, some report. Let's go back to the same report. This can be quite easy. And the report. Now we want to print to the local printer. Okay, let's go to the print option, select from the selection criteria. This is the local printer which is in ECC server. Okay, this is the information message. Just keep this. Okay, now it says the spool request 7821 is created without immediate output. That means we need to go to our own spool request. Here we can see the spool request is created, but the status is still blank. So we select this and say print directly. Okay. Now we can see the status is waiting. It is under process now. Now if you go back to our SAP system, we can see the spool which we have created. The same spool 0007821, and the output request -1 is came to the server. Okay, it says it's printing, but this cannot be printed automatically. As you know, this PDF have lot of manual interaction where you need to select this one, and the operation itself is different. When we are seeing the printout, that it does not go and sits automatically, so it does not have that much functionality in this particular PDF printers. Okay, there is a lot of other drivers which is actually commercial drivers which is available. You can directly print it here. Actually it will save us a PDF file, but this is a free software. It's called Qt FTP, which is a free software. Just demonstrating purpose just using. So as soon as it comes here, we know this is actually printing. Actually it's reached to the server. So we seen front-end printing and local printing. If you want to delete this spool, we can select all and delete it. Okay, but let's leave it like this at the moment. Okay, and this pull request may give an error message because this particular, this is still saying printing. As soon as the operating system detects this an error, it will send back a message saying that it's an error. So it can go as an error in some cases, if provided this driver is supporting an message back to the operating system or SAP whether this has been error. You can also see here the owner of the printing is SAP service ECC. This is a default user which is created by SAP during the installation. Okay, and same like this we can also create a remote printer. So remote printer, how it works, let's say SPAD, go to display again, go to the change option, let's say create. Here you will say TPRN RM or remote printer, or let's say RE for remote printer. Then you select PRN R for remote. Here you can, let's say we are using a HP printer in this case, then we can select HP or Lexmark, or let's say IBM printer. Okay, let's select one IBM PCL printer. PCL means Postgres library printer. Okay, select that printer. This is the driver. When you go here what we will do, we will select the access method to remote. Okay, the access method which you will be using is SAP protocol, that is yes, print using SAP protocol. As soon as you select that, you can see it has a host printer, which will have the printer name and the destination host. So let's assume you have a print server which have quite a lot of printer configured on the print server. You can define the, you can specify the print server IP address here and the specific printer. The print server may have more than one printer. Then you can specify the printer here. So here you can see the connection option where you can specify actually the port if you wanted to specify some specific port. In case, like let's say if you want to have some specific port needs to be specified, then you can specify the specific ports. Okay, and otherwise let's say we can leave it default if it is not necessary to specify. Then you will specify which printer of the print server you want to print. Let's say printer 1 or printer 2. You will have so many printers, you will specify the printer. So it will go to that specific host and it will print that document in that specific printers. Okay, let's save this. Okay, now we cannot anyway test it because we do not have a full-fledged print server for this purpose, but this is the way it works. Let's say in the SAP also, if you have more than one printer, then you can also configure it like that. Here you can see it says that it cannot reach the remote spool system. Okay, it's fine, we know this is not available. Okay, I'll save this one. Okay, with this we are coming to the end of this session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.